And listen to that crowd before this serve. They were going up as one. Their dreams have been fulfilled. A fifth set between Federer and Nadal in this incredibly important final. Look at this first point. Nadal pummeling. Signals to the ball. He wants the towel. I think he wants a towel. Either that or he wants something to eat. I'm not sure.
He gets very hungry during a fifth set, Nadal. It's more often than not he'll ring out for a pizza. That's not uncommon. They don't like it at Wimbledon, but at the French, they're quite open to that sort of thing, being French.
Look how far back he's standing. We're in the bunker here, and he's almost leaning back upon us. He's coming a bit further now, but this Federer backhand, a majestic backhand that it is, a single-hander, which has always been his weakness against Nadal, but he's hitting it early and he's hitting it strong. The question is, though, you have to think, Federer goes down a break early in this set, and it's curtains, and he's down off 30 and not looking good.
It's not. Often in the past, Buzz, we've been able to detect in Federer's eyes if there's a story there that we can see. Are you seeing anything in Federer's eyes at the moment?
There's a cloudiness to his brow, if you like. There's something that says, I'm not quite happy with what's happening. I'm out here, I've had an injury, I've limped back onto the court, and look who I'm facing. This unbelievable machine at the other end. This Terminator, if you will, has come back from the future to beat me, as he has done so many times before.
Well, the only worst thing would be if they were playing on clay. That would be the only other thing that would be worse in this situation for Federer if they happened to be playing on
I did hear that before the match, Nadal came out with a barrow full of clay. He was trying to sprinkle it on the court.
Well, that's interesting, yeah. They stopped him, and then I think his plan B was to fill his shoes with the clay to simulate being at Roland Garros. And I think that's what he's done. It seems to be working, Buzz.
Yeah, you can see he's leaving a little trail of that beautiful forehand down the line, and there's nothing you can do about that. 2 break points for the Spaniard. He grabs a towel, he wipes himself down in that very idiosyncratic way of his. But he's looking very solid to me here, Pierre. He's looking like a man who believes he can win this fifth set against his arch-rival.
And why wouldn't he? We've seen this situation unfurl so many times before, and it's almost like going to script.
There's Federer with that forehand down to Nadal backhand, just again and again. Look at this, it's stroke upon stroke. Oh, beautiful. Look at that.
There was a spring in the step there, and there's an air of confidence in some of the shots that I'm detecting from Federer at the moment. Often you'll see him slump a little bit, his shoulders will hunch, but at the moment he's keeping quite a positive demeanour, which is good.
It's a good sign for Federer and his team, and in that point, you saw Nadal was just waiting for Federer to change the angle of the point itself, but he just pummeled it back into the Nadal backhand again and again. Nadal now still with a break point. Crowd's hushed. Well, he sprayed that wide, and that's the break. The early break that he didn't want. Federer, certainly Nadal wanted it.
That's a classic example there of the pattern that's played out between these two. Federer tried to break the shackles, went for that forehand, should have been a little bit more patient, but then again, Nadal would wear him down if he adopts that. So he's in between a rock and a hard place, Buzz.
He's aggressive in this tournament, and that's served him well. And look at his face fall there. He doesn't look quite well to me, almost as if he's picked up a flu. Just quickly in between sets. It's set in very quickly. Hopefully it's only a 2-game flu, which is very common on the tennis circuit.
Well, we saw him being vaccinated at the change of ends to try and counter that. I don't know if it will take him time, but, hats off to Ljubicic, I think, again, prepares for everything.
Well, the metabolism these men have got, they actually work through diseases, work through inoculation very, very quickly. Perhaps 5, 6, 7,000 times quicker than a normal human.
Oh, yeah, they would have gone through, just in this set alone, we've played one game, they would have gone through measles, mumps, cholera, and all sorts of things. Shingles, you name it. I don't know what Nadal's going through now at the moment as he goes through that gesturing, but I think it's some kind of nervous disorder, Buzz.
Just a shout out while we have time to Teddy Shingles, who was our driver during the week.
Our driver and a wonderful dress designer, Teddy Shingles.
Teddy Shingles. Yeah. If you wear a Teddy Shingles, you are...
Well, you're noticed for starters.
Absolutely.
People, he turns heads, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, I was walking down the main street the other day and I was looking pretty good in my suit, and a woman came up to me and said, "Shingles?" And I said, "Of course. Who else?"
Well, you just opened up the coat and just showed her the label, and she nodded and winked and went on her way.
Went on a merry way, yes. Nadal, 15 love, and he's looking like... Oh, look at that missed forehand there, Pierre.
There's been a few through the tournament that you just don't expect him to miss. Again, we're seeing it again. So again, that has got to give Federer a little bit of hope, Buzz.
A little bit of hope, when hope almost seems to be gone even this early in a set. Interesting that Nadal didn't look up at his box. Usually when he misses a shot like that, he'll glance up at his box with sort of reproach in his eyes. In that situation, no, just a few quiet syllables to himself, and then...
Well, I wonder if that means, is there some kind of falling out with the box, the fact that he's not looking up there anymore?
I'm not sure. We'll have to keep our eye on that, Pierre, with that beautiful down-the-line backhand from Federer. His backhand during this tournament, as a rule, has been sensational and very different. There's been a lot of conversation about the difference in his backhand in this tournament, and we're seeing it here. It's beautiful.
There are all sorts of stories flying around about the Federer backhand. The latest one I've heard is what is changing is the way he addresses the ball on the backhand. I think previously it was more of a polite kind of intonation before, and now he's just basically swearing before he hits the backhand. And Roger Federer doesn't normally swear,
No.
but Ljubicic has said you must now address the backhand in a more violent manner, and Federer's interpreted this as every time he hits a backhand, just before point of contact, he'll let out with some blue language.
We could almost hear it there on the court microphones before he hit that beautiful cross court.
Well, they've had to move some of the court microphones because people were getting a little upset. Some of this swearing would be enough to make a sailor blush.
I mean, there are sailors in here tonight in the first two rows.
And they've had to leave.
They've had to leave, yeah.
Anyway, so...
2 break points for Federer. Now, this would be an incredible situation if it would be 2 breaks at the start of this fifth set.
Well, it'd be back on even terms, and again, Nadal has been very good at snuffing out these opportunities in the past, Buzz.
Let's see what he's got here. Oh, there's that backhand, a high looping forehand to the Federer backhand, and he tried to take it early, tried to get some stick on it, but just caught the tape there.
And it's that high bouncing shot of Nadal's to the Federer backhand. Buzz, to me, and maybe there's a reason why this hasn't happened, but it would seem very obvious to me to counter that. Has somebody suggested that perhaps Federer needs a bit more height? Lifts in his shoes, perhaps? Would that be something that he could entertain to try and overcome that?
There have been suggestions. There was a video on YouTube of beautiful forehand.
Can't do anything about that.
That is pinpoint accuracy, and that the kind of forehand we're used to seeing from the great Nadal, one of the greatest players who ever lived. The footage on YouTube, I don't know if you saw it, Pierre, of Federer on a pogo stick in practice.
Right.
And
trying
to get height. There was also one of him on a stepladder. Very hard to actually position the stepladder, run up, run down, take the stepladder and play your next shot.
Well, I think there'd be some rules against that, wouldn't it? Surely lifts in the shoes would be something that wouldn't break any rules. It would be quite a subtle way of dealing with this.
Well, there are stepladder rules, but he sort of circumnavigated the whole thing by circumvented, I should say. Circumnavigated. He walked around the stepladder as well. But he circumvented those rules. But Federer is one who understands tennis history, understands the rules backwards of this game. And he was able to actually get away with using the stepladder. He talked to the umpires and they said, no problem, Mr. Federer, with what you're doing with the stepladder. And look at him there, just acknowledging the net, not actually Nadal, but actually waving at the net, saying thank you.
Well, he's trying to fire up Nadal, I guess, and basically saying that I think more of this net than I think of you, Rafa.
Yeah. This net is also one of my fans, not one of yours. It was nice defensive work there from Federer, but he was on the back foot from the beginning of that rally. And once you're in that position and you give this kind of shot to Raphael Nadal,
Yes,
it's good night, sailor.
What it comes down to with these two players is who's going to start bossing who first.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's about who's the boss,
That's right.
which is why both these players have such a poor record whenever they played Tony Danza, because they both knew the answer to that question and the match was over before it even started. But when the two of them are playing, it's up for grabs.
It's up for grabs.
Isn't it?
Exactly right. There's Nadal just glancing now. Who's he glancing at? His eyes were wandering. I think he caught one of the ball boy's eyes there.
It was lovely stuff, and Uncle Tony, I saw them practicing. It's those looks in between points that Nadal doesn't leave anything to chance. He'll actually practice those for hours on end.
And Nadal holds, so that's 2-1 in the fifth set. Just looking at some highlights here from the breakpoint saved by Nadal. We were lucky enough to be at that semi-final against Dimitrov. What a match that was, Pierre.
It was a wonderful match. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to actually retrieve the footage, but Dimitrov's been kind enough to actually step on court and reenact those couple of highlight points for the crowd in between, and I think that's wonderful. He's actually cancelled his flight to do that.
What a sport he is.
Yeah, and they remembered exactly the whole play out of that rally, and that was wonderful.
I think I just called 2-1 there, Pierre. It's actually 2-0, of course. No mistake.
Federer needs to draw a line in the sand here. If he goes down another breakout, I'm not saying he would, but if he does, then it's all over.
It is all over. He had a chance in the previous game to break. Nadal saved him. You've got to think that's got to play in his mind. He's been broken and he hasn't been able to break back. Let's see what the great man has in store here. He's certainly not going in his shell, is he?
Not at all.
Oh! Now, was Nadal cheering then, or was he actually going for a review? No, he was going for a review. I think he might have been just sort of acknowledging Federer's greatness there with that shot.
Well, no, he's not sure. His box isn't sure. Carlos Moya there is just looking up, thinking, I have no idea, Rafa.
And look at that, just caught the back of the line.
Fair call. I think Nadal had every right to ask the question there.
And we saw Raphael Nadal practicing just before his match with Dimitrov, and that was something to witness, wasn't it, Pierre? One of the great moments in sport to see that man practicing.
It was.
Oh.
I don't think I've ever seen a man practice as hard as he plays.
Even more so.
More so. There was a wonder to see. Some of the players will go out and treat the practice as a bit of a holiday.
Yeah.
They don't care. And I think Roger Federer is typical of that type. He'll just go out there, sometimes just not even wearing proper tennis gear.
Yeah.
So he'll go out there dressed in character, a character from history sometimes, depending on his mood. I think before this match it was Marie Antoinette.
And that's 2-1 to Federer in the fifth set of this Australian Open final. What are we watching here, Pierre? I believe that could be Roger Federer. There he is. He's getting a talking to.
Well, yeah, that's the doctor explaining what the physio is actually doing. Because Federer isn't used to this sort of thing on the change of ends, so he's just being reassured that nothing untoward is happening.
Well, he didn't actually ask for a massage. That's the weird thing.
Well, no, I think somebody's just jumped out from the crowd with an urge to massage Roger Federer's left thigh.
There's nothing much you can do about that.
Well, no,
and someone has it in their mind that they're going to massage you, they're going to massage
And
you.
Federer's a good sport. He'll play along. See if it's helped him.
Let's see, Raphael Nadal was almost broken in that last service game. Excuse me. Let's see how he measures up here. 2-1. And again, Federer coming over that backhand on the service return.
There are some theories that have gone around, especially this week, saying that in order to break Nadal's serve, you have to break him as a man as well. And I'm not quite sure. I didn't hear any more detail about that. But have you heard any information about what they actually mean by breaking him as a man? And when would you do it? During the match or before the match, or?
It has to be done during the match.
Right.
You can lay some groundwork before the match. But in order to break Nadal as a man, it's not the easiest thing you can imagine.
I think so.
Particularly when you're just using a tennis racket and perhaps some words out of the corner of your mouth as you're changing ends.
They'd have to be some mighty powerful words to break him as a man if that's all you've got at your disposal. So not an easy task at all, Buzz.
Well, it's one of the reasons he's got Ljubicic on board, a master psychologist who has looked into Nadal's background and found 5-6 trigger words that he believes that if Federer actually mouths to him in the change of ends, will have a direct impact on his self-conception of himself as a man.
Right.
From what I've seen here, he's put 2 of those words into play. See if this game gives us any more indication.
Right. Well, we were wondering about the Ljubicic appointment when it happened at the time, but you've just shed some interesting light on that appointment.
Look at that backhand from Federer there, Pierre. That was a beautifully constructed point from both men. And this is tennis of the highest quality. Look at this.
There's a lovely shot. Buzz, unless I'm mistaken, I'm sure tonight Federer looks at least 2 inches taller than I've seen him in the past.
So you think there are lifts in his shoes?
I'm almost certain of it. Really. How else can you explain this change in that backhand?
The coin toss before the match. And Nadal looked a little startled. He sort of looked up suddenly at Federer and thought, what's going on here?
Well, I think Federer was even making some comments about how thin on top Rafa's getting, which he normally wouldn't be. They're normally the same height.
It wasn't done out of any maliciousness.
No, it was just
it
was just an observation.
That's right. Decked head to toe in Nike. Both men.
I don't think we've ever seen them wearing the same outfit. Like some players, you'll see an unfortunate set of circumstances where they come out dressed in exactly the same outfit. Never have I seen Nadal and Federer sporting the same outfit.
Not on court. There was the Wimbledon ball that they both attended in 2008. Where
they both in that red evening dress that they turned up in.
Strapless number.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's questions later. Of course, the magazines had pictures of them side by side discussing who pulled it off better. And it wasn't really a consensus. They both had their pluses.
Yeah, there wasn't much in that, I remember.
And back to Juice again, the Nadal serve. Well, the Nadal serve, he's not as dominant as perhaps we thought he might be. We know Nadal hasn't got the most on serve on tour, that's no question. But usually when he gets his nose in front in the 5th set, he puts his service games away quickly.
He does.
With great pinpoint accuracy. But tonight...
And he does it usually with belief and attitude, not much else.
Sometimes without even serving the ball itself.
No.
He can take 2 or 3 points.
That's right.
Just through belief and attitude. The umpire actually has discretion to award points on belief and attitude. It rarely comes up.
And most opponents won't argue because they'll agree. But tonight, I think we're seeing a few little cracks here, Buzz.
Now, let's see. You know, the pressure's right on Federer here. But this is tennis of high quality. Oh, beautiful backhand down the line. He glances up at his box and shakes his fist. I don't know if that was a message there to Merker, as if to say, I want you to leave. We know that the great Bjorn Borg had a system of signals that he would give to his then fiancée, Mariana, and she would leave the stadium. You remember that, Pierre?
That's right.
Look at that look. I'll leave you. I'll leave you.
Don't think that I'm not capable of it. I know Federer's as meek as a mouse off the court, but he likes to get belligerent towards Merker while he's playing a match.
Oh, it's safe.
It is safe, yeah. Usually there's a big crowd watching when Federer plays.
Yes, and anything that Merker tries will be caught on tape.
Oh, security would come out straight away, wouldn't they? Even if it is Merker.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's Roger Federer, so he knows he's safe.
You know the story. It's the 2008 Wimbledon when There was a rain delay towards the end of the match, and Nadal had Federer on the ropes, and apparently Murky gave him a dressing down. Reported by a reporter, a newspaper reporter who heard it, and said he was quite sheepish, and she said to him, "You are Roger Federer, show the world who you are." And he just nodded meekly. You've got to wonder whether she hasn't had the opportunity, obviously, tonight to do that. During the match, there's been no break.
Yeah.
But obviously that look he's giving her is just to say, well, you've got no right to say anything to me tonight.
Well, that's a funny one, because I've heard exactly the same story. You say that she gave him a dressing down. The story I heard was that she gave him a dressing gown and said, "You're playing like Hugh Hefner." So you've obviously heard a variation of that. I'm not sure which one's true, but whatever she said, it worked.
To me, either story is equally as plausible. Beautiful serve by Nadal there to take the game 3-1, and there was a small window there for Federer. Closed again. We're coming into the middle of this fifth set, and Federer doesn't have many chances to close this match out.
No.
Not to close this match out, Pierre, you know what I mean, but to get his teeth back into this match.
That's right, that's right. The pattern, as I say, we've seen it so many times before. Federer has half chances, will miss them, and then Nadal will just close it out.
That's right, exactly. And you expect at this point now, Federer must be a little vulnerable on his serve. He's had 2 chances to break back. He's been broken once. We know that he's said in the past that the 5th set is a lottery, which is really quite a strange statement to make. He sometimes holds up his ticket at the change of ends.
He does. He always comes prepared.
It's only played by Federer. Boy, he's
That's right.
playing attacking tennis, the like of which we maybe haven't seen. But who's he up against? A man who is his great nemesis, not only in the tennis court, but in the world itself. So, he's got Merker in the stands, he's got Nadal at the other end. He must feel that the world's against him.
Oh. And again, I think that's where Ljubicic has been brought on board, because Federer felt that he needed a friend out there.
A very poor drop shot by Federer. He telegraphed that, and Nadal has some wheels on him and has just put him away there. And you can see Federer blinking angrily at himself, as if to say, "Roger, you can't afford to be doing that, son."
Just a lovely little take back on the two-hand, rolled it into the corner beautifully.
Such a different shot, the two-hander to the single-hander, isn't it?
It is. They're worlds apart.
It's one of those things in tennis that even the Nadal forehand is a singular kind of shot, but at its base it's not that dissimilar to the Federer forehand. But the backhands, they might as well be from different planets, let alone different continents.
That's right.
Well, they're not from different continents; they're both from Europe.
Both, that's right, but both is effective. There are a lot of ways to achieve an end result, as you know.
Absolutely, and this tennis here at the moment, Pierre, this is wonderful stuff. The crowd, you'd have to say, behind Federer, the majority behind Federer. We saw the Nadal-Dimitrov match, in which case the crowd was definitely, I would say, 87% behind Nadal. I took a reading of the decibels of the recording device I had, and I had about 87, 88% to Nadal.
Okay, I had it more about 84, but I think my battery was flat in the equipment I was using there, Buzz, so I'll go with your call.
Here we are at Rod Laver Arena, and look at Nadal celebrating the fact that he's held that serve. And the crowd behind Raphael there. Have you seen Rod tonight? Rod Laver up in the stands, he must be there.
Well, he is. He's keeping an eye on the match, but he's quite busy tonight. He's actually insisted on ushering people to their seats. So he's getting very tired, but he'll greet you. "My name's Rod Laver, this is my arena. Let me take you to your seat." And this is the sort of man Laver is, very humble. He's insisted on seating, I believe, is it a 15 or 16,000 seat capacity here, and Laver has personally taken every patron to their seat. No, that's what I love about Laver.
He's more than a figurehead at this stadium. He's very hands-on.
He's hands-on.
And I believe he actually made the batter for the fish and chips that are in the...
He does everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything has the touch of Laver about it, so that when you come and watch a match on Rod Laver Arena, you're not just watching a match on Rod Laver Arena, you're experiencing Laver in every way possible. And The man must be nearly 80, mid-70s to 80, and he's working like a Trojan tonight.
He's not letting the team down. He's not letting his name down.
Oh.
As you can imagine. An earlier round here, Pierre, I was actually lucky enough to be in the Laver arena. Look at that backhand cross-court from Federer.
It's just,
look how early he's taking it. Look at the power.
It's vicious. I love this aggressive addressing of the ball, Lubicic. I can't repeat what Federer just said before he hit that backhand, but I tell you, there are a few words there, and I've heard a few.
Yeah.
That my ears are ringing.
And you wouldn't credit that for Federer, would you?
Not at all. It's just so out of character.
Absolutely. I was about to say, I was seeing an earlier match earlier in the week here in Rod Laver Arena. I had a program and I actually dropped it and I went down to pick it up. But before I could actually pick it up, who handed it to me? Who was there to hand it to me? Rod Laver.
Well, that story is just so typical. I was in a cubicle using the facility when, again, I was no toilet paper. It happens. Hand under the next cubicle. And I could tell from the calluses on that left hand that it was Rod's just passing me a couple of sheets, and I just thought, Rod, thank you. And I heard a hiccup, but I knew that it was Rod Laver.
Yeah, of course he did.
He didn't want to claim credit, and everyone has a Rod Laver story to tell.
There's no end to his charity. For example, Dimitrov made the semi-finals quite against expectations. Word has it that Rod Laver actually bought him airline tickets to go home after the first week. He didn't think he'd make any further. He bought him economy seats back to
Bulgaria?
And cancelled his hotel reservations.
Very thoughtful.
Very thoughtful. Dimitrov walked back to his hotel. They said, Mr. Dimitrov, you're not staying here anymore. Dimitrov said, what? I said, well, Mr. Laver has checked you out. And Dimitrov just smiled. And then he went to Flinders Street Station where he's been bunking down overnight until he made the semi-finals. And obviously he was knocked out.
And telling everybody who'd listen about what Rod had done for him with a smile like a Cheshire cat.
Yeah, and then he'd laugh and say, the great man. And that was it.
It's wonderful, wonderful.
And it's wonderful as an Australian to know we have this man in the country as a figurehead.
What will happen when Rod Laver dies? Because it's something that keeps keeping me up at night, and I'm worried about it because we have no replacement for Rod Laver.
There is no replacement for Rod Laver. There's only one Rod Laver.
There is. I mean, somebody suggested John Alexander, but I think that was just a joke.
I think that was John Alexander.
I mean, I had anything against John Alexander, a fine man in his own way, but he's no Rod Laver.
When push comes to shove, he'd be the first to admit it.
Oh, well, he does. Even when you're introduced to John Alexander, the first thing he'll say, I'm no Rod Laver, and then the conversation continues from there. It's a strange thing to say as soon as you're introduced to him, but he knows his place in the pantheon of Australians.
Yeah. There's Nadal looking down at his strings as if he wanted to blame his strings for something.
Well, I think it wasn't all of them. I think it was just the second cross string from the bottom he feels didn't perform on that shot. He'll single out strings if he feels that that shot hasn't gone according to plan. He's very idiosyncratic in that way.
And that review has given Federer a break point to get it back to 3-all. Now, if he's going to do it at any point, this has got to be it. You've got to think he's not going to get too many more chances.
No. And his record with break points against Raphael is awful, Buzz.
Yeah, I think he's 3 for 4,000, something like that.
Oh, at least.
Let's have a look here to see what transpires. Oh, he snuffs it out, jumps into the air, does a little kick of his heels.
A little scissor kick.
He's almost like a cartoon character then.
And again, just rubbing it in, I guess, and saying, break point, not for you, Feds, or something like that in Spanish. I don't know Spanish, Buzz, but I think that's what I saw with that gesture and the lip reading ability that I have.
And you notice he didn't look up at his box. He didn't look up at that ball boy. He's had problems with an entire tournament.
Yeah, totally. That ball boy and Rafa, they've been at loggerheads for the whole tournament, Buzz.
We'll have to just keep our eyes on here. He's swearing at him, swearing at the ball boy. He was saying something to him. Get it to me quickly, ball boy. Quicker, ball boy. In Spanish.
And the ball boy, you can see, he's breaking out into a sweat. The pressure is starting to get to him. And I don't like what's happening here at the back of the court, Buzz. Turned ugly.
Nadal now with advantage to take it to 4-2. Well, the net cord says Federer. It doesn't say Federer, but certainly unusual for Nadal not to give it enough breathing space over that net.
Now, this is interesting, Lars, because Nadal will often employ the body serve and Federer, but tonight he's actually, it looks to me like he's serving for Federer's head. He's employing a head serve. And this is something he only pulls out very occasionally. He's decided to pull out the head serve tonight.
Very, very difficult serve to master.
Oh, and I think you can tell Federer's actually tightened up the headband in response, knowing that he needs to brace himself.
That's a beautiful backhand cross court. We know the head serve was developed by Bill Tilden early in his career. And
that's right. I think he used to practice it with a lot of his young proteges, Buzz.
Rumours have it, yeah. Look at that backhand cross court.
Oh, even in slow motion it looks fast.
And there's Merker. She thinks she's won the match. She doesn't have a grasp on the scoring system, even though she used to play tennis.
Well, she doesn't, and even on her, she doesn't have much of a grasp on that cardigan. The bottom three buttons are undone. Have you seen that when she's getting up?
Well, it's for comfort, I think.
What are they paying Lubicic for? Surely he could address that situation as well while he's standing right next to her. She's on camera.
Breakpoint Federer. Early he's taking that. Has that taught the line?
I think that's wide.
He's taken it 3-all, and Nadal looks to the heavens, but nothing's going to come down and save him at the moment. Yeah. Listen to the crowd.
Crowd is up.
Unbelievable comeback here from Federer. He was down for the count, 3-all in his fifth set of the Australian Open.
This is wonderful. And Buzz, I think actually Rod's come down and done up those bottom three buttons again as part of the service. This is ridiculous.
You'd expect no less, really.
Rod Laver.
Now, they say that a break is only as good as the hold that comes afterwards.
Yeah, I think Fred Stolle said that about 1 million times, if I'm not mistaken.
He'd said it all, not even according to tennis. He said it on his wedding day. He said it at the time he was making.
Part of his vows. Just came out of left field. I think his wife at the time rolled her eyes and said, "Am I really marrying this man?" But anyway, that's a story for another day.
This aggression from Federer, well, not an entirely convincing volley, but...
No, that was another direct shot at Federer's head. It was self-defence.
Look at these fans are going crazy. The percentage of fans here, definitely tonight, majority going for Federer, no question about it now, and it must be weighing on the Spaniard's mind.
It must be.
Why don't they love me?
Yeah, and I think a lot of Federer's opponents, that must ricochet through their minds as they're playing the match. Yeah. They're only human.
Exactly. Why is this man so beloved? Arguably one of the greatest loved sportsmen in the history of sport.
I can't think of anyone else who people love more than Roger Federer.
No one?
Oh. The only, perhaps Gary Leo from the Balmain Tigers. That would be the only one that comes close. I don't know if you've got anyone else.
Back at the Australian Open, Rod Laver Arena, and there's the box of Federer going up. They know the importance of that hold. He's 4-3, but it's still only on serve, and there's Nadal's partner. In absolute.
Well, Nadal's having an argument with her, as you can see, and she's shocked. Well, why he wants to start bringing up domestic issues at this point in time.
Exactly. It was about dinner last night, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
He needs to concentrate.
There's time to talk about these things, and there's a time to let it go.
Not now. Focus, young man.
But this now, pressure back on Nadal, even though it's on serve, the tide has turned and he must hold. It's a must-hold serve.
Yes, certainly.
Fairly... The crowd are being more vocal this year. I don't know if you've noticed this, Pierre. During the service motions, and it just seems to be as creeping into the Australian Open much more than it used to be in the past, where the umpire's having to quieten them down and people are shouting out at inopportune moments.
Yes, it's sad to see this lack of education starting to filter through to Australian crowds. I think something needs to be done. Perhaps Tennis Australia could implement some kind of course that people attending the tennis could attend some sort of 3-year degree where they're taken through the appropriate behaviour, the ins and outs, when to yell out, when not to yell out, I don't know.
So you're talking about a bachelor in tennis appreciation, tennis spectating?
Totally. I mean, there's so much to take in, to learn about the game, but also how to respond. For example, everybody knows that when a ball gets stuck in the net, the appropriate response is to guffaw and laugh.
Yeah.
Some people don't, and they will just sit there quietly, and if you're sitting next to one of those people, you'll turn to them and gesture that they should be laughing, and you can help them along. But
That's right.
I think that we're certainly falling down in that area these days.
The other area I think very important is when a tennis player makes any kind of joke on court, that no matter how asinine, you need to laugh politely.
Yes.
Laugh along with it in the spirit in which it was given. Because they're not comedians.
They're not.
They're tennis players.
That's right. And they're just there trying to entertain you. They're doing their best. And I think to start booing them or yelling out derisively is totally inappropriate.
Now, incredible scenes here, Pierre. That was a double fault from Nadal. He's down love 40. This could be curtains. What a turnaround we've seen in this set. And look at the box.
That double fault almost mirrors the double fault of Dimitrov in their semi-final. Came
That's
at a point,
right.
and it's come back. Uncle Tony's up yelling.
He's yelling. He's yelling at the ice cream vendor.
Right, I think he's after a choc top.
Yeah.
Does. Okay.
And if not that, a cornetto. And look at Nadal.
He doesn't appreciate Uncle Tony yelling out for ice cream at this
Exactly.
point.
Choc top, what are you talking about? You've got more class than that, uncle. Federer has come out firing, but that's a beautiful shot there from Nadal. He's trying to pump himself up and again shouting at that ball boy. Look at that. I'll get you if I have to. That's what Nadal's saying. And
He's saying in this broken Spanish-English type of language that's very unnerving for that ball boy.
I wouldn't be surprised this ball boy took him to court in the game. Look at terror in that ball boy's eyes.
What's he meant to do here?
Exactly.
He's handing him the towel in the right manner, isn't he? Like logo emblem up, the way Nadal likes
Exactly, and a little bit of shake. Well, of course it's going to be shaking. Look at the Nadal box. Those guys are depressed as anyone.
Well, they are, and they're not happy with the ball boy either. Some of them are starting to yell out at the ball boy, hand him the towel properly, for God's sake.
Now, who are these young children at the back of Federer's box? It's a question that many people have asked. A young lady there and a much younger boy, and they are riding this game with emotion. They can't be doing their young nervous systems any good.
Well, no, but I'm sure Roger appreciates all the support he can get at moments like these, even though he has the full support of everyone in the crowd.
Now look at that from Nadal. What a competitor he is.
How many times have we seen this play out in the past where Roger Federer has an opportunity to crack the match open only for it to be snuffed out by Nadal?
You've got to hand it to the Spaniard there for this wonderful serve. And Federer tried to come over the top, but it was breaking out wide to him and he just mistimed it. Juice.
Yeah.
Game's not over yet. These players will be giving everything at the moment to try and win this. Oh, Federer's taken out wide. Nadal on top of this point at the moment, but Federer's recovered well and hitting it deep.
Great defence from Federer here.
And that strange high backhand. Beautiful backhand from Federer. What a point here, Pierre. Brilliant!
Oh, that's just wonderful.
One of the great points we've ever seen in the fifth set of a Grand Slam, without question.
That's just one in the match, Buzz. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that's not only one in this championship, it's also one in the French, Wimbledon and US Open for this year, there in that 1 point.
Grand Slam is his for the taking. Look at that!
Present the cups now.
That kind of point, you don't see it between many combatants, and that was just something out of the box. And look at that. He's looking at Merker saying, I can survive without you.
That steely look in Federer's eyes, I don't think I've ever seen it. The last time I think I saw that was on his wedding day.
Exactly.
He gave Merker that same steely glance, and we haven't seen it since.
Let's see what Nadal's got. Oh, wonderful. Serve down to tee. This man has got nerves of steel.
It's just a typical Seesaw Nadal Federer flash. Everyone's nerves are on edge here, Buzz. I think even Laver slipped out of his seat.
Isn't it amazing that last point, the 26-shot rally, is worth exactly the same as the next point, which was one shot.
Oh, well, that's the beauty of the tennis.
Yeah. Back to juice.
Now, in another way, Buzz, of course, not every point is equal in tennis. Sure, surface level, 1 point, but we know that depending when the points are won, they carry a lot more weight during the course of the match.
No question. The ones played during the match certainly have more weight than the ones played after the match.
Yeah, or in the warm-up. Which they're worth nothing still, which I disagree with totally. I don't understand why those points in the warm-up are totally relegated to no value at all.
That's right, they're hitting the ball over the net, aren't they?
Sure.
In the court, everyone's watching.
Yeah, so again, another area that I think tennis has got a lot of work to do in terms of cleaning up its act.
No question. And the administration has to have a good, long, hard look at itself. And that point there from Federer, he virtually bludgeoned Nadal out of it, and he gives himself another break point.
Oh.
What a return from Federer, and he's got it!
How acute was the angle on that backhand?
Unbelievable. I don't think there's ever been a player in tennis history who gets the angles on their backhand the same as Mr. Roger Federer.
No, that's phenomenal.
And that's 5-3 to Federer. He's won the last 4 games on the trot. And look at the box, They're just starting to realise he can win this now. It's on his racket.
It's this inner sense of belief that I don't think I've ever seen from Federer. I think the last player I've ever seen this demeanour from was Bjorn Borg.
Interesting.
This inward sense of confidence and assurance. Usually with Roger Federer, there's a cocky look in his eyes or a frightened look. What we're seeing now is something totally different.
Well, I've never, ever before seen him look up at his box as much as he's done in this match, ever. And who knows? We've got our suspicions about his relationship with Merker, but we could be way off being there.
We could be, or is it some instruction from Lubicic? I want you to look at me more during your matches. I don't know why he would suggest that. I mean, he's not a particularly attractive man, even Lubicic, but he has a sense of charisma about him. I'll grant him that, but...
Well, he said that to Federer, and he said, "You've got to look at me when you're talking to me." And Federer said, "I'm not talking to you, I'm out on the court playing tennis."
That's right.
Lubicic said, "Don't talk back at me, I'm your coach."
I think he's just playing with his mind to try and toughen him up, break him down, build him back up again.
It's working a treat so far.
It's working a treat so far. It's interesting how he's talking about the aggressive addressing of the ball on the backhand side, whereas on the forehand side, he's asked Roger Federer to actually yell out the shot he's playing. Topspin forehand. Drop shot, yelling it out before he plays it.
And where he's going to hit it.
Where he's going to hit it. This is some sort of kind of belligerent bullying tactic.
Yeah. But look at that backhand from Federer. That was a missed time. Or something not quite right about his motion in that shot, and he knows it. As he goes up now. So let's have a look. As he hits the ball, it looks okay. Just as he hits it, his hand comes up just to say, "Roger, what is that?"
I think that left ankle was pointing towards Laver when it should have been pointing possibly more towards Ken Rose, or who's sitting next to him. I think it was that slight alignment. It was just slightly out.
And look at Lubicic. Lubicic knows.
He knows.
I can't believe it. What's he doing? I mean, what's the point of training this? He's uncoachable.
Totally.
Now, Federer can't afford to give back this break.
No, I think if he did, it would be over for Roger Federer. But let's see how it plays out here.
It's been an incredible match so far, and he's played with such aggression. Beautiful shot there from Nadal. Has he gone over the net? Well, Federer looked as if he thought he had, but no. Points been given.
Must have been very close.
And that's 2 break points from Raphael and Nadal. Let's have a look here. Jeez, did that racket go over the net?
I'd like to see that in slow motion.
Now, what's your understanding, Pierre? Is the racket allowed to go over the net?
No, it's not. The racket must stay on your side of the court, otherwise you default the point.
There's no question in my mind that racket went over the net.
Who's going to call something like that at this stage? It'd be a very brave umpire.
Yeah.
I think perhaps
you'd call it and then leave.
Well, you would, but perhaps the ball boy that Nadal's having an altercation with may have whispered something to try and keep the argument brewing along.
Yeah. No dice. Again, break point to Nadal, second serve, Federer.
Oh, that's a wonderful shot.
What a shot to play at this point in the match.
Oh, but if you're a Federer fan, wouldn't you just be saying, for God's sake, Roger, do we have to complicate things? Can you just come out and serve for the match? We facing break points. It's just a roller coaster ride.
There's this addiction to drama that he has. Come on.
Totally.
In the early days of his career, he didn't have that. In 2005-06, he was rolling through.
Just took care of business and that was it. He'd be off to dinner early.
It was those 6 months where Spielberg was his coach. I think that's just a mistake.
Yes, it was.
But here we are now at championship point for Roger Federer. And look at Laver laughing as if it's the end of the world. Now imagine the butterflies. 6 months off for this man, and he's coming back and serving now for the match on his racket.
What he would have given for a first serve there.
Went out by a long way, but some of the crowd cheered. I don't know what game they're watching. Oh, it was called a fault. Federer is challenging. So what happens in this situation, Pierre? If this ball is out, obviously it's a double fault. We go back to juice. But if it's in, does Federer get another first serve?
He does indeed.
And he will. That has caught half of the line almost. So Federer now on championship point, challenges a call and gets a first serve. What an incredible turn of events this has been.
Yeah, it has been.
Well, he's challenged that as well. That's called out. He's challenged that. Now, did Nadal get anything on that?
He did get a racket to it, but it would be very contentious. The umpire would have to make a call on this.
You wouldn't think that the call would have interfered with Nadal's...
It's a moot point, Buzz.
Look how out that is. Ridiculous call from the linesperson.
What a ridiculous game this is turning out to be.
Still championship point. Oh, nervy forehand.
Very nervy.
Federer's box, taking a big sigh there. Federer must be thinking, was that my chance?
What is it? There's some in the box stand, some sit. You would think
squat,
some squat. There would be some kind of coordination happening in that box. It looks like it's a rabble at the moment.
All sit, all stand, all kneel.
Yeah, be a team.
Yeah, it's like a Catholic mass. Oh, lovely serve out wide from Federer. Gives him championship point again. What an incredible thing this would be, Pierre. 6 months out of the game. He himself said he got to the fourth round, it'd be a successful tournament. And here he is in the final, and he's about to serve now with one serve for the championship.
Grand Slam number 18.
There it is. That Nadal has challenged, I believe. He has. Federer looks a little disgusted. Nadal looks at the ball.
Nadal's thinking.
He's not sure. Oh, he's looked up. Who's he looked up at there? Rod Laver, perhaps.
I think he's asking Rod to make a call.
But this will be it. If this is in, has it caught the line? It has.
Truly.
There it is.
Wonderful.
Roger Federer, winner of the Australian Open 2017. 6-3 in the fifth set. And the two great friends meet at the net. I wonder what they're saying. Nadal saying, I'll kill you if I have to.
But I won't do it in public.
Has it sunk in yet for Federer? I don't believe it has. It's sort of...
Well...
Let's see, he's acknowledging the... Oh, there it is. There are the tears.
Famous Federer tears.
And he sank to his knee like a knight from the round table. Look at him here, shouting out to the crowd.
He reserves those tears only when he's in the presence of Rod Laver.
What an incredible turn of events this has been. Roger Federer takes out the Australian Open 2017, and he's at his chair, he's sobbing. He looks up, sips from his bottle, and you've got to think of this man. He could have closed the Grand Slam gap with Roger Federer, but instead...
He was in control of that set, Buzz.
Yeah.
Roger Federer was in all sorts of trouble throughout that set.
Yeah.
Facing break points, losing break point opportunities. It was just all happening. He's somehow come through this, and I think he's going to be a better man for this.
But let me say this, I believe Roger Federer was braver in that fifth set.
Yes, wouldn't disagree there, Buzz.
He was just getting his stuff. Do you think you'd have someone there to help him get his stuff together? He's just won a championship.
Oh, he can barely move. He's so tired. He's having to crouch over his bag, and I'm not sure what's he trying to get out of his bag there, Buzz. Is it like, what's he looking for at this point? He doesn't need anything more in his life, does he? What does he need to get out of the bag?
I'm not exactly sure what he's got in the bag there. I mean,
I know.
At the moment that he's realised he's just won the Australian Open, hands up in the air, the joy.
And I hope it's not a repeat of the last time he played at Wimbledon, and live chickens came out of that bag, which everybody at Wimbledon was very polite, and nobody said anything. They rounded up the poultry and moved on. But why would Roger Federer have live chickens in his tennis bag?
Well, you'd think at Wimbledon it's far more sensible, this grass. Chickens like grass. I mean, chickens on a hard court.
Came out later, they were his lucky chickens. He won't play a match without those chickens, but there's a whole aspect of animal cruelty. It was a 5-set match.
And I'm stuck in that bag the whole time.
There were these sounds, nobody knew what that clucking was about. Everyone thought it was either the umpire or one of the linesmen.
Nadal, when he was about to serve, could hear the clucking, thought it was Federer clucking at him.
At least
look at Laver.
He's celebrating like he's Prince.
But that wasn't at the end of the match. This is when he let the chickens out. Thank God those chickens are free. Look at them all. The chickens are free. Federer too, celebrating the freedom of chickens. And what a note this is to end this telecast of the Australian Open in 2017.
Beautiful.
Free chickens, and good night to everyone.